Fresh out the oven, it's Cinema Bums. I'm Wade.
And I'm Emmett.
Cinema Bums is a podcast where we watch through every single movie in popular film franchises, one each week, to try and track how the storytelling changes over time. Today, we are concluding our mini-series, Squeaky Clean Do-Gooders, covering all the films in the Dirty Rotten Scoundrel series. We will fully spoil today's film, but we will not spoil any future entries in the series because there are currently none.
And we pray and hope that that it will stay that way and that we never have to watch another one of these movies.
Can you imagine if this is the first of our series to have a new movie released?
Dude, I would not be surprised. They're going to be like, we really need a movie to put Taylor Swift playing an old woman and Billie Eilish playing a young woman who learns from her how to be a good con woman. But then they both get tricked in the end by someone else.
Well, who's the third?
I don't know. That's why that joke doesn't work. I had a really good setup there. I don't know who the guy is that matches that duo.
Maybe Jason Derulo.
Jason Derulo.
Dude.
Emma, how are you doing?
Oh, I was going to ask, how are you doing?
Oh.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well as well.
Good.
Particularly well, because we're honored to have a special guest here. There's a look on Emmett's face that says he forgot to send me an intro, which I asked him to write. So let me say, today we're talking about The Hustle. The tagline for this movie is, they're giving dirty, rotten men a run for their money. Our special guest today has been giving her dirty, rotten brother a run for his money for all her life. Please welcome Caroline Temple.
Woo!
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Thanks for being here.
We had a middle school teacher that told me that being Emmett's sister would open doors for me, so it's really coming to fruition.
Would you say that this is the first door that's been opened?
The first of many, I hope.
Wow, I hope so too. How are you doing? How's it going?
I don't know you'd ask me that question. Feel put on the spot.
I'm sorry. Did you not get the extensive list of questions I sent before this?
I was ready to answer if it's a bop or a flop.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there for sure. Had you seen this movie before?
No, this was my first time and last time.
Had you seen Dirty Rotten Scoundrels?
Yes, I have. I think it's a favorite of our dad's.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Emmett said too. Did you like it? Do you have fond memories?
I do, yeah. I really like Michael Caine. Steve Martin, not so much, but he plays banjo now.
Yeah.
You know, it's really funny because I said that we watched this movie. I said that we were watching it to my dad, and he was like, man, I hate Steve Martin. And my mom was like, yeah, but you like him in that movie. And he was like, yeah, kind of. But he was like, but I think he's a bad actor. He looked at me and said, Emmett, would you say that Steve Martin is a good actor? And then I was put on the spot, and I was like, actually, probably not. I do think he's probably pretty bad. Sorry to Laura and her love for him, but I cannot think of a single time. Like, he makes me laugh sometimes, but it's usually that cringe. Like, he was doing cringe humor before it was even like a thing, you know? And like his whole shtick in like the Muppet movie is just like that you want to get away from him as much as possible.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of how I feel about him. That's how every other character except for strangely Glenn Headley feels about him. And then you realize why at the end is because she's been scamming him the whole time. So I don't know.
I like him. I don't know. He does sort of play the same character in a lot of these movies. But I guess so does Michael Caine, you know.
That's true. That's true. Well, certainly he plays the same character in every single Nolan film.
Did your dad watch The Hustle with you?
Sadly, no.
Our sister did.
Oh, okay.
And Mariah had some choice words for it as well. I do want to just like say a couple things that Mariah said about this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Just like up front before we forget them. There's a couple things I wrote down. She said, at one point, Anne Hathaway is crying, and Mariah says, I didn't see a tear.
Oh my gosh.
And then
tear checking.
She says, get in your pool and take a seat. At one point, to I think Anne Hathaway again. There's some pretty sweet burns from her. I also have written down for Caroline Meghan Trainor jokes.
I was dictating my notes to Emmett last night, and I felt good about that process until I realized that my notes are put down that I love air horns. And that was pretty much it. So.
And then you also had likes a classic Pink Panther credits intro. Because that was a cool credits intro that they had.
Yeah,
that was the
it seemed
first
like
and last cool thing about it.
Yeah, right? It seemed like something for a much better movie.
Yeah, it had promising beginnings. Steve Martin's in Pink Panther, isn't he?
He isn't in Pink Panther, and that's like...
He isn't?
No, he is. Yeah, he is.
He is.
He is the Pink Panther.
He's great in Pink Panther.
As a devout Princess Diaries fan, I liked that they referenced Julie Andrews to Anne Hathaway.
Oh, that's good.
That was like I
So-
feel like they couldn't afford a Julie Andrews cameo, but it was like a way to...
So I think it's really interesting. You're bringing in this like kind of meta-textual piece. Like this is a tapestry of the 2018 film era. You know, they're making references to stuff that anybody watching it in that time would know outside of the film. It doesn't have anything to do with the plot of the film, but you would know it if you're an educated viewer.
What will it be? If you were like around in 2006?
Yeah, essentially. What will it be in 50 years to watch this movie and just not get that and be like, this is bad?
Probably much the same as Bedtime Story.
Yeah, honestly, probably so.
But you know what? They could have referenced Julie Andrews in Bedtime Story, and we would have still gotten it today, 50 years later. So,
that's pretty crazy. So maybe that's smart. Just tie yourself to a big enough star, and you're set forever. Caroline, I guess that middle school teacher did have good advice after all.
When I was doing some research on this film,
Yeah,
I found this quote from Anne Hathaway where she was like, there was this whole fiasco where the movie almost got an R, which I guess we'll talk about later.
did it? Wait, is that a PG-13 movie?
This PG-13?
God, it's disgusting that children should be allowed to see such filth.
Anne Hathaway was like, yeah, it was important because Rebel Wilson has a big teenage fan base from Pitch Perfect, and I have a big teenage fan base from The Princess Diaries. And I was like, those fans who were teenagers when The Princess Diaries came out probably have kids now.
Yeah. Damn.
They're not the same generation.
And even the kids who loved Pitch Perfect are at least in their 20s now. Well, the cruel hand of time rolls on, does it not?
Yes, and on that lovely note, today we are talking about The Hustle. This movie... Emmett, would you like to do the 3-sentence summary since I have to do the stats?
Absolutely. Okay, so this is a little movie about two con artists. One played by Anne Hathaway, and she is playing a British woman. I suppose. I hesitate to land on where she's supposed to be from because her accent fluctuates. And Caroline was all on top of this. She was like, that's not the same accent. Like every 3 lines, it would just, you're like, I'm stuck. I have not a clue where she's supposed to be from.
I have the dirt on that.
Okay, good. I'm excited to know why this happened because I do like Anne Hathaway. I do think she's a good actress, and I think she's bad in this. Well, not bad, but it's like a terrible movie despite her being in it. And she makes some wild choices. She makes them that you're like, what are you doing? Like, was there no friend around like who read the script with you and was like, don't do this? Like straight up, you do not need the money that bad. You can go out. Anne Hathaway is a good enough actress to actually be a con artist and actually go out and make that amount of money without going through the humiliating process of being in this film.
So is that what you would say the movie is about?
This is a movie about an Anne Hathaway and a Rebel Wilson, just two crazy con artists with a crazy idea. And they said, we want to make $1 million. And we're going to have this little Mark Zuckerberg type character who made an app and is just some little American tool. We're going to fleece him for all he's got. It's essentially the same plot as both the third act of Bedtime Story and the last 2 acts of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, except it starts about 5 minutes into this film. And so that's nice because you really just get down to business, even though it's incomprehensible.
This film actually reminds me of Bedtime Story a lot. It was directed by a sitcom first-time director. It was clearly made for no money. It's painfully unfunny. Lots of similarities I see between this and Bedtime Story. So this movie, The Hustle, was directed by Chris Addison, who is a British stand-up comedian. He directed a lot of the show Veep.
Oh, wow.
Don't know if anyone's seen that. I've heard good things.
I've seen episodes.
This is his first and so far only film. The writing credits for this, so you've got Stanley Shapiro and Paul Henning, who wrote Bedtime Story, get credit. Then Dale Lautner, who wrote Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, gets a credit. And then the person who actually wrote this script, wrote all of the new stuff, is Jack Schaefer. She made this movie called Timer in 2010, which I sort of remember hearing about, but I have never seen. It's like a sci-fi rom-com in a world where everyone has like a timer that counts down until when they meet their soulmate.
Ugh.
And you can like choose to look at it or not to look at it.
Weird. How's that strike you, Caroline, as a concept? Did you ever see that movie?
No, I didn't.
Well, what do you think of it?
It sounds sad.
Yeah.
Sounds really depressing.
Yeah.
She did that. She did this movie, which is almost 9 years later in terms of like actual produced credits. And then she just created and was the head writer on a little thing, you might have heard of it, called WandaVision.
What?
This film was written by the woman who created and wrote WandaVision. This was her project before WandaVision.
They looked at this movie and they said, yes, let's give her one of the most important things. And honestly, WandaVision is pretty good.
She also has a story credit on Black Widow, which hasn't come out yet, but she might have actually done that first with how the release dates and everything have gone.
That makes sense, yeah.
That was interesting to me. The score was by Anne Dudley, who is a composer and also a studio musician. She played on a lot of cool stuff in the 90s and the 2000s.
Whoa.
And she won an Oscar for The Full Monty.
Whoa.
So I thought that was cool. Another thing that's cool, this movie is 1 hour and 34 minutes.
That was the coolest thing about it.
5 minutes shorter than Bedtime Story, the shortest in the series. Caroline, how did you feel about the pace that this movie goes at?
As I was telling Emmett earlier, I felt kind of like in the movie Elf when Walter Hobbs signs off on those pages that have nothing happening in them. I feel like they missed like a major chunk of the story and just like skipped over it. And I feel kind of like the angry grandpa who's going to answer for that because the pace was just everywhere. And then they filled it in with a really terrible montage that didn't serve anything. No. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that was like for Rebel Wilson's teenage fans, but it was tragic.
Rebel Wilson, do it for the teens.
Yeah, they really never use any of those skills. And it's a wide range of skills they do in that montage. Never any of them seen again.
We were talking about what those skills were used for. Because you said it was all for, like, charming.
Oh, yeah.
Their victims.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was a lot of self-defense.
There was some self-defense.
Throwing knives was for charming the victims?
Yeah, that's
because,
what I was like. Yeah,
going on a
just
date
like,
where you drink craft beer and throw knives.
Exactly. I was like, this is like to charm people. Like, it's also a form of self-defense, but essentially it's so that you can look really cool when you go on a date to throw an axe or throw a knife.
Wait, what year did this come out? 2018?
Yeah, it's like social
commentary. That is so 2018.
That is so 2018. It's so 2018 to, like, have something to say about that. And for your thing to say about that is, like, this is kind of dumb.
Yes, this movie was released May 10th, 2019 by Universal Pictures. It was a Mother's Day movie.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Oh, good.
So it wasn't so 2018, but maybe their ideas came from
that's
2018.
Even more, that makes it even sadder because then it's not even of the zeitgeist, you know? They're not on the leading edge of making fun of people throwing knives in bars. They're, like, on the tail end of that.
They're like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, the movie was actually filmed in 2017, so I'm not sure what was...
Well, maybe they were really out of their time.
What took 2 years?
They invented the trend.
They invented that joke. In fact, I don't know that anybody actually threw knives in bars before 2017, so they could have invented the whole thing.
That's true.
And by the time it comes back around, it's like a commentary on a commentary.
I was kicked out of a knife-throwing bar in 2018 for being underage.
Not for throwing a knife through a man's heart?
That's what you're supposed to do. So no, I didn't get the chance to.
Wow.
Okay, so this movie had a budget of $21 million, and having watched the movie, I would guess that it was 20 to Anne Hathaway and $1 million for everything else.
It was 20 to her accent coach.
This movie is so clearly shot on an Airbnb in Los Angeles. They've green screened a lake in front of.
Wait, that's not a joke.
No, that is a joke. But that's I'm pretty sure that's what happened. It needed about $45 million to break even, and it made $97 million.
Well, hey, good for them.
It came so close to 100, didn't quite pass that, but it was successful. A commercial success.
I guess it did what it had to do then. Wait, I wonder how much Anne Hathaway made. We need to find out how much Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson made for being in this movie.
This film had a negative critical reception.
No kidding.
It has a 35 on Metacritic, making it, Emmett, the worst reviewed film we've ever covered on this podcast.
You're telling me this movie is worse than Deadpool 2?
The other scores that come close to it, this got a 35. X-Men Origins Wolverine at 40. Dark Phoenix and New Mutants at 43. Bedtime Story 54. Hannah Takes the Stairs 63.
Damn.
Yeah.
And this is by far and away the worst.
I don't think this is the worst movie we've ever done on the podcast. I think it's the
No.
worst of those.
Yeah.
I think it being second to Origins Wolverine, that's one of the only fun movies I've ever watched for this podcast.
You know, I feel like this movie had a lot in common with X-Men Origins Wolverine. It was like Caroline said, like just parts of it were just not there. Whatever, just make it happen. They probably saw Dirty Rotten Scoundrels back in '88. They'll know what's going on.
Without having seen that, you wouldn't.
I had seen both of them and was still confused about several points.
Yeah, what was baffling to you in this still?
The Medusa thing?
Oh, right?
I must have missed when they set it up, because when they talk about it at the end, I thought that was just a funny name Rebel Wilson was calling Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was this movie's version of the Jackal.
Yeah, but more
And then
important,
it isn't the guy, it's his grandma.
Yeah.
Weird.
Which is all revealed in
And
the
are we
text.
supposed to think that that's Glenn Headley is his grandmother? Probably.
Oh, that would be cool. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
My review quote for this movie is from Caroline Seed at the AV Club. This is a really well-written review. I'd recommend everyone go check it out. This was actually one of the more positive reviews of the film. She writes, "When it comes to source material to plug into the trend of gender-flipped comedy remakes, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels isn't actually a bad choice. It may star two men, but Dirty Rotten Scoundrels has a little bit of a feminist bent. Yet, while The Hustle is more overt when it comes to discussing gender, including a monologue about why women are better suited to the con than men, it doesn't really have all that much to say. Not about gender, not about con artistry, and definitely not about how to craft a satisfying studio comedy."
Damn.
Ouch.
And one of the more negative reviews, I just brought this because I thought Emmett would think it was funny, is by Ella Kemp at Empire. She writes, "The Hustle buckles under the overbearing weight of its own vulgarity. Avoid the dirty rubble by all means. An embarrassment to the heist genre, an insult to all existing comedies, a disgrace to feminism."
Wow. That's well put.
So critics were pretty harsh on this movie, but what did we think? Caroline? The Hustle? Flop or bop?
I have to say, it was a flop. There were bop-esque points. The air horn being one of them. I can't read Emmett's
Shoe
handwriting.
kickoff is best part.
Oh, here's a good note. Shoe kickoff is best part. As a teen fan of Rebel Wilson, I do like how she kicks off a shoe. That's some powerful physical comedy.
When does that happen?
Both the air horn and the shoe kickoff are during the montage. So even though that was my most hated part, it was also apparently the one that stuck with me.
And
the
you
most.
have, of course, the Julie Andrews reference that you love there.
Meghan Trainor jokes. I'll just say that and we can pretend I made them.
I'd love to hear some.
Wait, why do you say that though? Because there was it sampled her music at the beginning, right?
At the beginning, I think it was that one that was
Wait, here, let me see.
I know you're lying. Your lips are moving.
Oh, yeah.
I have written down somewhere, I don't remember where, not this same terrible bit. Oh, I think it's when she's in the jail cell doing the names. And I was like, no, we're not doing this one again. Like, you're going to cut 20 minutes of plot out of the beginning of this movie and leave in the bit with the names? Unbelievable choice.
You know what? I'll say this, and I won't say
Uh-huh.
much for Rebel Wilson this episode, but I'll say I thought it was funnier with her doing it than Steve Martin.
That's true.
Just because she said funny names. Steve Martin doesn't even say funny names. He just says names for 5 minutes.
It's such a bad bit. I also love the part where she throws her bag off a cliff. It's a classic. Where she's like, here, catch this. And the guy just like watches
I
it and
do
goes,
love that.
that's just a classic bit of comedy.
That's a bop.
Well, there is an original Meghan Trainor song at the end of the movie, too.
Oh,
she
really?
made for this movie.
Oh, crap.
Where she sings, I'm a badass woman.
Wow. That's good.
Meghan Trainor made it for the movie.
I
A
have,
gift from the Queen herself.
I have here much love for Anne Hathaway because lizard. She has a lizard at the end. And that really endeared me towards her character in a way that I hadn't felt for the most of the movie. I was like, why do I like either of these people? They're both scammers, and neither of them is particularly charming.
Anne Hathaway's outfits were strong.
They were strong. Those were good outfits.
That I feel like that was where the whole budget went.
And that instilled some trust in her, because you're like, if you look that good, if you've got like that much put together, then you have to know what you're doing.
Right. I lost respect for her during the poop fry scene.
Oh God!
Oh, I had forgotten.
God! That's so.
That was
so
heinous.
bad.
It was so it was unfortunate to watch, and just I have nothing to say about it actually.
Yeah, it was bad. Certified bad on that scene. Emmett, The Hustle, flop or bomb?
Flop. And let me also revise my previous statements about Dirty Rotten Scoundrels and also give that a flop. I'd like to take back everything I said before and fully flop the entire series. I apologize for having submitted it into the pool. This is truly an offense to all of the things before listed, and also to good taste. And I think that has been true. That's been the through line of this entire series. Thank you. Wade, flop or bop?
Oh, a flop.
Yeah.
Flop for sure. I will say that it was a great relief to hear you say that, because whenever I watch something that ends up being I feel like as close to objectively bad as is possible, there's a pit in my stomach and I'm like, oh no, Emmett might like this. I might have to argue about why this movie is bad. So I was glad that I
no
didn't
disagreement
have to.
here. This was terrible.
Yeah, it was really bad. I wanted to like it. I wasn't expecting to like it some. I like Anne Hathaway. It was a good trailer. I was interested in seeing more of Jack Schaefer's writing, and very interested in what they would do with this story in the 2000s. But it's just so unfunny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You just never laugh at it.
No, it's not.
You're just embarrassed.
There's
for
no
them.
subtlety.
Oh yeah. You were saying
And that's
that
it, and that comes down to the title itself, The Hustle. Everything about it spells it all out for you.
Well, then
leaves
her-
nothing to the imagination.
Her first gag her first hustle that she's pulling is trying to get a boob job for her sister, and scamming guys that way, which is just utterly crass. Mm-hmm. But could be funny if it was played. I can imagine that joke playing some way where it's funny, but it didn't. Because they just went for the most obvious bit with it every time. They didn't ever explore that idea. I don't know.
Was this movie trying to be feminist? Was that one of its goals?
The original title for it was Nasty Women. So it was trying to be very topical.
Is Anne Hathaway really supposed to be in a relationship with the cop lady or what?
That was one of the things
That's
that I
one
felt
of the
was
things this movie should have
deeply left out.
Yeah, this movie should have committed to something on that, Because I thought there was a little bit of tension there between old Andre and old Michael Caine, But I thought there was even more tension there between Anne Hathaway and her cop lady friend.
It's cool that Anne Hathaway is Michael Caine, because Anne Hathaway's worked with Michael Caine in Batman.
She's been his daughter in
Whatever.
Interstellar.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
That's
she's
true.
she's directly in line.
Wait, do Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson work together on anything else? Because they do actually have some chemistry.
No. No, they don't. But maybe they will. I mean, not much has happened since this movie came out in the film world,
That's
despite it coming out 2 years ago. So Maybe they will at some point.
Uh,
I watched a bunch of press tour interviews of them, and it seemed like they had a good time together.
Filming the montage sequence.
The movie was very much Rebel Wilson's idea.
oh, really?
Like, she
Okay.
was a producer on it. She was sort of the originator of the idea.
Okay.
In August 2016, it was announced that Rebel Wilson was going to produce and star in a Dirty Rotten Scoundrels remake.
Okay.
And they said it's 2 women instead of 2 men, and they're conning a tech millionaire.
Okay.
So I think like that was her pitch. Mm-hmm. And she sort of came to the studio with that, and they were like, yeah. I think the writer gets hired then too. And then it's like half a year later in January when Anne Hathaway comes on board and they say that it's going to be called Nasty Women. It's even like 3 months after that when they finally get a director.
That's a strange process.
Yeah, it was interesting to me because it's like these are 2 box office stars
Yeah.
and a proven franchise, but they like can't get a director for the movie, and then eventually they get like this first time director off of TV.
So do people just like hate the script or something, you think?
Probably.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Like, what was it about this that people were like, no, don't touch it?
Damn.
The script is really bad.
I mean, it clearly is.
It like is a less thought out and like more jarring version of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, but it's basically an exact copy of that plot wise. It doesn't really ring any new change on that.
Well, it does a little bit.
It has an extra
falls in love with
scene,
her.
but it doesn't really have any extra.
The structure is pretty much the same, but they play with the roles in an interesting way.
That's true.
Yeah, I guess the first thing that I thought was interesting is that in the other 2, it's about men sleeping with women so that they can get rich, like con them out of their money and jewelry. Mm-hmm. And this one is about women like not sleeping with men in order to con them out of their, or at least that's Anne Hathaway's thing, but maybe not Rebel Wilson's thing.
Yeah.
All of the third act stuff changes. Like the Mark falls in love with Freddie,
Right.
and then it's the Jameson character who's the one who's like, I'm going to sleep with him. Like, that's the one who takes on the sex bet, which is reversed from the other 2.
Oh, right.
And then that's the one that ends up getting, like, immediately conned. And the other one gets, like, the long game con.
You mentioned earlier how you're supposed to believe that the women are really good con artists, but we start up with them getting caught. And it's true, like, in the final scene, even when it's 3 of the best conning minds working together, their con is that they stole a bunch of money and ran, and then the people are immediately looking for them, like, within the minute. And they're hiding under a Christmas tree, like, in gold dresses. So I sort of feel like that doesn't really speak to the, like, high-profile skill.
I will say in that last shot, I was looking for Hathaway amongst the Christmas tree packages. And I was like, I know she's one of these, and I couldn't tell which one.
She at least can hide as a Christmas package.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Damn.
maybe it is a bop after all. How did you guys feel about the Mark in this? The Mark Zuckerberg-esque figure?
Well, you know, when we talked about this last week, and Laura made the point that like that movie is kind of about like how the woman has it over on the guys the whole time. Like, she's really been smarter all along. That's a fun message. But like the guy like having it over on them the whole time is like less about them being super smart con artists, you know? That's just like kind of that is like a strange shift. I think he acts it very well, but I think it's a very strange character.
Well, he's not even a good con artist either. I mean, it comes down to
Yeah.
a faulty Bitcoin exchange.
Yeah, like none of it is clever. None of it like has any thought
not
put
interesting.
into it. There's
It's
no
really just off the
intrigue.
cuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no voila moment
no,
whatsoever.
it's all clatter and no ding.
It feels kind of toothless, too, that he is actually in love with Rebel Wilson,
Yeah,
but he does still con her,
yeah,
you know?
so it's like
And
having
then
it both ways.
Yeah.
But he sends her a text to make up for it, as all the best con artists do.
Sorry, I had to go spend all this money to invest in, monitoring systems.
I wrote, this movie feels like it was written by someone who read about women online.
But But it was written by a woman.
Yes.
Ouch.
There are like a lot of just like surface level references to like the plight of women, but then it doesn't feel like the movie has really considered anything or even makes time for its female characters, really. I feel like
Everything is so surface level. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I mean, like they don't take any time. It feels really rushed. They don't take any time with any of the jokes. They don't take any time with the plot.
There's a lot of Rebel
Like-
Wilson being horny and that being funny.
They're trying to drive the point home, maybe about like men being too horny and just
Yeah.
like easily duped,
Yeah.
and like women taking advantage of that. But they don't even drive it home. 'Cause
But it doesn't even. Yeah, it doesn't ever
They
quite
don't take
pay
the
off.
time.
Plus, you're not
they
ever
leave it at the
like.
bar.
You're also never like, if that's what they're doing, you're never like, oh, this guy is like overwhelmed with lust, right? Like it would work
right
more if it was like aggressively macho, gross sort of guy, because then you're like, yeah, like that is.
Well, they're all gross.
They
but
are.
they aren't
gross.
like scary or anything.
Yeah. I don't know. It's also like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I feel like what he's like falling in love with her, but what you want that to be more is like, you want him to be like really into her. Or at least that works better for like the con works better if that's what they're doing, you know? It should be like a disaster for her con wise if he's actually falling in love with her, you know?
When he has that scene where he sort of confesses his feelings for the first time
Uh-huh.
to Rebel Wilson, it doesn't seem like she has considered having feelings for this guy before that
No.
moment.
Yeah.
Whereas Steve Martin is like, and even Marlon Brando are like falling in love with them throughout the whole thing, you know.
Yeah.
But in this one, it very much seems like a one-sided thing. Like Rebel Wilson is sort of into him because he's into her.
Yeah, that scene was also really trying to be deep, but when she like gets a little bit tearful about how men usually treat her, but it was so I don't know what was happening. Like it was so quick, so poorly executed.
The movie is also like so offensive to fat people in like such a horrible way. Like Rebel Wilson and the script and the camera at every moment. That seems to be like its main joke.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And, like, I feel like this is just as problematic as the other two, even though they made her blind instead of
I don't think that made it any better. I don't think that made it better at all.
But they still do the same jokes. Like, aren't there so many different jokes you could do with a different
Yes.
handicapped disability?
Yeah, if you're going to go that route, if like you're going to play on the edge of that cliff, you could at least cook up some different jokes. That is true, for sure.
That's the main reason I was like, is it trying to be feminist? Because it fell flat on its ass if it was.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, that was so... Every point of it was like a really bad fat trope.
Yeah.
Just tiresome to watch. It was 2019, I mean.
Yeah, that feels like much older. That feels much more like Shrek era jokes.
God, and so that's exactly...
What are you trying to say about Shrek?
Yeah, Shrek is a classic. Let's not come for Shrek right
I'm
now.
not insulting Shrek, but Shrek has the same thing where like every shot is him like picking his pants up as they're sagging behind.
Wade is deeply morally offended by any gross out humor in anything.
The poop fry.
The poop, it's a good
Well, also, okay, and when Rebel Wilson was like, and for the effects I had on your plumbing.
Yeah, like why do we
At the
need
end,
to
like,
have that?
we don't need that.
We don't need that.
We don't need her making jokes about, like, the appetizers being bottomless.
Yeah, no.
Oh yeah, maybe that's why no one wanted to do this movie. Well, how did you guys feel about beyond the way the movie treats her? How did you feel about Rebel Wilson's performance?
I actually got a tattoo of her face on my leg after seeing this last night.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I got Anne Hathaway on mine, and I feel like that one is gonna age better.
That's great. I got a flip book of the shot where they're in the bathroom in the airplane, and then the camera zooms out and you see a nice little animated plane. You
Yeah,
see all the
that's
budget
fun.
fly by.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
That was the best shot in the movie.
Yeah.
I felt like I was watching a Wes Anderson or something.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
a funny Wes Anderson clip.
Funny Wes
Yeah.
Anderson? Never heard of one.
Well, how did you feel about Anne Hathaway then? If that's what we have to say about Rebel Wilson. Emma, you mentioned being a big fan of her.
I like her usually. She is just one of those people who's generally good in things. A movie like Interstellar, where a lot of stuff in that movie is silly, but her performance is pretty grounded and pretty intense. You think about a movie like The Devil Wears Prada. You think about a movie like all of the ones where she's got those pale cheeks and the pink nose and the pink cheeks, you know, and the long dark hair. All of those
Pale cheeks
movies.
and the pink cheeks.
And she's really good in them. She just looks like herself, you know, and I think that's good.
Ella Enchanted.
What?
Yeah, and she's up in Ellen Enchanted. She was in Princess Diaries when we were all in diapers, man. So she's really been doing the damn thing.
Yeah.
Did your leg pop for Anne Hathaway's performance? Maybe you don't get that reference because you were in diapers. It's Princess Diaries.
Wow.
She's like, I just want my leg to pop when I have my first kiss. Okay.
Yeah, because she's got little kick up. What other movies is she in? We should just do an Anne Hathaway hour. That's
Let me look. I had it pulled up here. Oh,
Look,
she's in Rio.
Just invite me back for the JoJo hour.
And little known fact here, y'all. She was married to William Shakespeare himself. So I think that's impressive. She's really making that age gap love work.
This is the interesting thing. This is the career arc. She starts off in Princess Diaries in 2001.
Uh-huh.
Ella Enchanted 2004, and then she makes the transition, always the like uncomfortable transition from Disney star to adult star.
Uh-huh.
In like Havoc and Brokeback Mountain.
Wow.
Then she's in like Adult Comedy Zone, Devil Wears Prada, Get Smart,
Oh, yeah? She was in Get
Valentine's
Smart.
Day, Love and Other Drugs.
Uh-huh.
And then in 2012, she has Dark Knight Rises and Les Mis,
Unbelievable.
which I think she wins the Oscar for Les Mis. And then she gets sort of...
Not for Dark Knight Rises.
But then there was sort of a public backlash to her persona. Sort of, I feel like, similar to this thing we saw with Jennifer Lawrence that I feel like we talked about when we had her.
Yeah.
But, you know, Anne Hathaway is just a very wholesome, sincere, a theater actor too. And I feel like she like talked very publicly about like how hard she was trying for the Oscar and how much everything meant to her.
Damn.
And I think people just sort of like wrote her off. Like got tired of that.
Damn.
So then she's in the background for a while, and then she starts to make this comeback with Ocean's 8 in 2018,
Okay.
which I don't think she was announced to be in, but she is like the bad guy in that.
Oh, wow.
Apparently she's very good. And then I read a theory that someone posted about this movie that she has been making so many bad movies recently because she just needs money to fund her own movies she's writing and directing.
Oh, that would make a lot of sense.
I kind of doubt it because it feels like she probably does have enough money.
No, she's broke. She probably single-handedly funded Interstellar.
She was in Serenity, The Hustle, The Witches, Locked Down. Like, not some rough movies recently.
So would this be the second in her series of the female reboot?
Yeah, I guess that was... So this movie is a part of the trend known as the all-female reboot, which I feel like much ink has been spilled on.
For sure.
But looking at the list, really not many examples of it, actually. I feel like people just either, like, complained or proclaimed about it so much, and also maybe a lot were announced that didn't get made. Because, like, the actual list that I could compile is Ghostbusters 2016, which is, like, the big one.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good and makes a ton of money.
Yeah.
Because, of course it would. It's, like, funny actors and Ghostbusters, two things people love.
And a genuinely funny movie. A movie that had different jokes than the original Ghostbusters.
That is true.
That's important.
That's important.
And it's off of the back of that specific movie that this movie gets greenlit.
Oh, huh.
Because it's like it's August 2016. It's right after that movie comes out and makes money.
I always won this.
But it's that, it's Ocean's 8, What Men Want, Overboard, and The Hustle. Those are
That's
only
it?
5 I could find.
Okay, wow.
Wait, what was What Men Want a remake of?
What Women Want, starring Mel Gibson.
Are you serious? That's on the nose.
Wow. So is that 5 movies you said?
That's 5. And people were trying to say that, like, The Force Awakens was a female reboot. I was like, no, that's just a
No.
movie that has a female lead character.
Yeah.
But in terms of, like, these actual, like, we're gender swapping an old movie and remaking it,
Yeah.
the list is really pretty small.
If you guys could all female remake any movie, what would you choose?
Ooh, that's a good
That's a
good question.
I mean, like, The Godfather, not to be
I was
totally
thinking.
cliched, but, like, that would be awesome. Just because it's got so many big, juicy parts for tons of people. And it's all guys. You get a big range of ages in there, too.
I feel like Back to the Future would be interesting. This is always the thing I think with Back to the Future is that that movie is pretty much perfect. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, you can't remake it. But I would be interested, like, life isn't as good for everyone else who doesn't look like Marty McFly when they go back 60 years, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
I feel like
yeah.
there's a lot more to mine in that pitch if it's a woman or a different character. And still, like, a fun sort of movie.
Yeah, that ups the stakes on going back in the past.
But I don't know. I just feel like, you know, it was such a thing for a while, but there really aren't that many of them. And I think, like, sometimes genuinely the female reboot is better than the original.
Yeah.
And I would say, Caroline, you're kind of the female reboot of Emmett.
Some would say.
I would say much better than the original.
But with new and better jokes.
Unlike this movie. Okay, here's the scoop on the accent. I couldn't believe it.
Oh
when
my
I
god.
read this.
Lay it on us.
I also was very concerned about the accent listening to it. So Hathaway didn't want to do a British accent.
She's American, right?
She's American, and Rebel Wilson is Australian. The first time it hasn't been a British actor and an American actor in one of these movies. The director, who is a British man, like, insisted that character has to be British. So what they eventually decided is that he let Anne Hathaway play it like she was an American woman pretending to be British the entire film.
What?
That it was like, that was just another long con, but it was never revealed.
And never paid off.
Yeah. Basically, I think Anne Hathaway was like, I don't want to do it. And then they, like, invented this sort of mind puzzle to tell her so she would feel okay about doing it.
So she would
But
feel
she-
okay about how bad it was?
She apparently is trying to play it like she is an American pretending to have a British accent.
At some points, her American accent did come out, like when she was speaking harshly with Rebel Wilson's character.
Yeah.
And it seemed like maybe it was a reveal, but the only subtle part of the movie, maybe. Too subtle.
Yeah, if the rest of the movie is all just like neon signs flashing in your face, it's just not really going to work if you try to throw one subtle long con thing in and never reference it, you know?
And that's the only long con.
Get real.
I feel like it's sad for this movie because Dirty Rotten Scoundrels does have like a big reveal moment.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, and it is as satisfying to watch. There's a good build up.
I mean, there is the same reveal.
But-
it just doesn't have the same effect.
Since you didn't introduce me as a collaborator, can I take this moment to plug Hanks for Watching,
Yes.
my collaboration
absolutely.
with Molly Lovejoy?
Okay, tell us about Hanks for
Well,
watching.
please tell me about it.
Well, I expected you guys to say no, so...
No, go ahead.
No, please.
Beginning with...
I don't know.
I'm struggling to name a Tom Hanks film that's not Forrest Gump or Wilson. But as soon as I can, I'm going to come back on to plug the Hanks for Watching.
When you say Wilson, do you mean Castaway?
Yeah, that's what thank you, Wade.
There's Big, I know that one.
Oh, Big. That was... Oh, well, I can't say that on
Okay.
this. Never mind.
What can't you say on
Okay.
this? About
Never
Big?
mind. Oh, he was Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. No wonder why Molly wants to do this.
He's in Joe versus the Volcano. That's a good early one.
Oh, Saving
It's a shame.
Private Ryan. I bet Greyhound is promising.
Yeah, I think it's like 80 minutes, so I bet it's good.
Well, it's a lot of films.
Okay, it turns out like 6 of them are actually films I've heard of.
But you're watching Tom Hanks films. That's what Hanks for Watching is.
That's the gist of it, yeah.
I think the gist of it is to watch all of them in chronological order, is it not?
Yeah, chronologically speaking.
She's ripping off what we're trying to do here.
Basically.
Please, I can understand how anyone looking at the millions of dollars and thousands of fame we've gotten
Yeah, that's
off
true.
of this podcast.
Yeah.
I can't blame anyone for wanting to steal it.
No, I mean, like, if you wanted to get in on the hustle.
Will you come on as a guest for the episode about White Boy Summer?
Wait, are you going to have a Chet report? Are you going to...
Just like a weekly Chet report, yeah.
Weekly Chet report.
Check in with Chet.
Check in with Chet. Dude, that's... Yes, that's hilarious. Somebody needs to take him inside and just put him in a room with a bunch of blankets for a few hours so he can get whatever he's got in his system out of his system. Give him some nice calming tea. That's what I would recommend.
I always say this, but it's so weird that Tom Hanks is like America's dad.
Uh-huh.
And yet Tom Hanks, his son, is like the scourge of America. His
That
actual
totally-
son.
That totally makes sense. I feel like that completely works.
This film originally started with a huge action set piece,
What?
which was filmed where Anne Hathaway was pretending to be a Jason Bourne-esque spy with no memory as part of an elaborate con on Tim Blake Nelson. And they filmed it, and I guess that was what all the action training in the montage was supposed to relate back to
Okay.
later. It was originally the opening of this movie, and they cut it because the test audiences liked Tim Blake Nelson more than Anne Hathaway. I guess he was just like a sweet, nice guy, and they were like, no, we like him. We don't think that you should con him.
Damn.
And then they reshot it with whatever weirdo they had at the beginning of this movie.
Wow. That's crazy.
But he's a blockbuster actor. He's
Yeah.
worked with the likes of George Clooney.
That's true. Caroline, who did you think the protagonist of this movie was?
I was wondering when this question would come up. I definitely think that role was split between 3 characters, and those 3 characters were the women that got pissed on Rebel Wilson's behalf when Anne Hathaway was dancing with her man.
I couldn't agree more. What do you think they wanted?
I think they wanted to just they were quick to switch sides. Definitely that super glue incident. I think they were out looking for something that night, and what they were looking for was the tea, and they found it. And they went both ways. I mean, they had no loyalty. That's what I liked most about
I
them.
suspect they did.
They were all about like their own journey that night, and not about any kind of like cause.
They were just like, okay, we hate her now. Cool, we hate the other one. Great, we'll do that instead.
Yeah.
They wanted to glue somebody to a wall that night.
Definitely, some could say they were the characters with the most character development in the
That's
entire
fair.
film, and the ones that like I took the most time to really like get to know and love. So
They're the only ones you really saw like behaving, you know, in their natural.
they were doing the most complex
habitat.
acting.
Yeah.
Emmett, protag?
Well, I think Rebel Wilson thinks she's the protagonist of this film.
Well, she produced it, so...
I'm going to say that she is. I'm going to say that she is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that what she wants is not very clear in this movie. In general, it's like she wants to make money. She wants to... But she doesn't really seem to have that much of a competitive streak the way that Steve Martin did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Steve Martin wants to be as good or better than Michael Caine. Right, and Michael Caine is like kind of disgusted by him and is like, whatever, I can teach you and you still won't be as good as me. But I don't feel like either Anne Hathaway or Rebel Wilson had a strong enough point of view on what the other meant to them. What like the other's existence meant for their existence, you know? So it wasn't like, they were just like, oh, hey, we both do this same thing. But, you know, like in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, I feel like you know exactly how they feel about each other as ideas before they even get to know each other as people, you know? If that makes sense. And then she wants to be with the tech boy for some reason, but we never really understand why, other than that he likes her, but that seems like a low bar. He's not cute. He's not particularly nice. He's also
He's
a
nice.
scammer and is like
Yeah.
scamming them, you know? Yeah.
He's completely different later, though. I mean,
Yeah,
he
that's
is
true.
less
He is
like
more
sad
charming. He would
Mark
be.
Zuckerberg. Like hoodies don't cost much money.
Yeah, that's true.
And
That was
more like-
that was one good joke that they wrote in there. He was like, "Well, I still have this, and hoodies don't cost much money."
I thought that he was. I kind of liked his acting before the switch, but I thought he was not very good when he comes back as like the Australian showman
Yeah.
at the very end for the twist. I didn't really buy it.
No, he was not as good, certainly not as good as Glenn Headley is in that scene in which he kills and is like utterly transformed in that movie.
Well, I didn't even buy it when at the end he was like, the only thing I never lied about is you.
But I feel like
It wasn't
that's-
convincing.
It doesn't convince.
No.
No.
It was just strange.
Do they even kiss?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
They never even consummate their relationship on screen.
Later, there's a reference to it because she's like, I'm saving a present for you. And Anne Hathaway's like, I'm still here. And that's like the last line of the movie. So that was the landing that they were trying to stick.
That's true, Caroline. That is harsh and cold. You're really saying, like, the whole point of this movie was to lead up to one stinger killer of a last line, and that's what they decided to go with.
A classic third wheel. It's not even like a joke. It's just a statement. I'm still here, guys.
Truly.
Yeah, who do you think the protagonist is?
I agree that it's Rebel Wilson because she kind of makes the change, but I don't know. I don't know what she wants. I have nothing intelligent to contribute here. Carolyn, who's your MVP of this movie? Your favorite character other than the protagonist?
Well, see, those three ladies were the muses that like made an impression on me. When everything else, it was like
What about the cop?
they were in color and the rest was black and white. But I don't know. Texas guy, he was strong
Oh, he was.
as an actor,
Oh.
and I really appreciate anyone who can work a bolo tie. As I've tried, and it's no small feat to actually pull off.
Wow.
So, and he did, and that
I
deserves
would love to see
something.
it.
Yeah.
That's an accolade.
And he is kind of funny. He is incomprehensible in his accent, which is just kind of amusing.
Yeah, he had the same accent coach as Anne Hathaway. And they were over it by the time they got to his scene, so.
Emmett, MVP?
I think my MVP is... There is a scene early on
It's doing some
where there's a nun in the background of the scene, and that nun
Yes.
is my MVP. I was like, that's a great nun callback.
A little
I'm-
reference
I was so
to
happy
Dirty Rotten
about it.
Scoundrels.
Yeah, that was my favorite part.
And then she makes a little reference to Bedtime Story later when she says, let me tell you a bedtime story. My MVP was sort of already taken, but there are no rules anymore, so
Yeah.
I'm going to also take them.
Okay.
It's Hannah Waddingham as the leader of the three ladies,
Oh, hell yeah.
who I like from Sex Education, where she's Jackson's mom.
Oh.
Oh.
No,
And can we immediately
no.
segue into Aquamarine?
Emma Roberts. Yes, can we talk about Aquamarine for a second?
Okay.
Because we promised, Caroline and I promised that we would talk about Aquamarine.
We made a
Please,
promise to our
We made
audience.
a promise to our audience that we would talk about Aquamarine, a
Wait, have
queering
you
of a
seen-
mermaid. A master's thesis.
A queer marine, if you will. Wait, have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
You're lost.
I'm ashamed to say.
It's got JoJo, and it's got Emma Roberts, and it's got
Not Emma Thompson.
and it's got
I like Emma Roberts.
the other girl in it who plays the mermaid.
Apparently, she was physically abusive to her co-star in American Horror Story.
Was
Emma Roberts?
Emma Roberts?
What's his name?
Evan Peters?
Evan Peters.
Wait, so what's the deal with Aquamarine? Why should I watch it?
Okay, here's why you should watch it. So picture it. It's a summer town, and there are these two girls, and they're not cool. And they're
No,
best
but
friends.
JoJo's cool.
But she's cool, but she doesn't know she's cool. You know?
She just hasn't found her crowd yet. She wears
hasn't
cargo
found-
pants.
Yeah.
And no one else in the tiny island town
She's
wears
listening
cargo
to
pants.
Cranberries. She's wearing cargo pants.
It's relatable for
She's-
some of us.
She's going around on a longboard. She's in love with her best friend, and they spend all their time together at the beach, but like not cool at the beach, essentially.
But
Okay.
they're both supposedly in love with this boy Raymond.
But what I think is
is-
really going on, what?
Well, no, tell me.
No, because I think Emma is like into this boy Raymond, and JoJo is into Emma, and she's misplacing her affections onto the boy to like have a competition for him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because she would do anything to sabotage Emma
yeah.
Roberts' chance with Raymond because she wants Emma.
Yes.
Even as a second grader, I was picking up on the like homosexual undertones. So like,
So then
it's there.
So that's what's going on. So in the drama,
I've heard all of that, but isn't it a mermaid movie?
yes. So exactly, all that's going on before
Sarah
the mermaid even
Paxton.
shows up. Then there's this storm. This mermaid shows up. Sarah Paxton.
And then she teaches them all that they don't need men, they just need each other,
Yeah.
which they already knew. And JoJo's like, yes, that's true.
Doesn't she steal the man so that they can only be with each other or something?
Yeah,
And
Sarah
takes him
Paxton
back
wins.
to her underwater mansion.
But she famously says, who needs Raymond? I found 2 new men to love, and their names are Ben and Jerry. And I quote that every time I eat Ben and Jerry's, which is frequently. So.
In any event, at one point, she invents AirPods.
Oh, you mean the little stickers?
Yeah.
Those are beautiful. They like whisper compliments to her.
That's very sweet.
It is very sweet. Yeah, and she eats a lot of gummy worms in the pool, which I started doing after I watched that movie, and they taste better with chlorine. They really do. But
Really activates the sour sugar on them when they have chlorine.
and that's chemistry, which I wouldn't actually know much about because I got worse grades in chemistry than the movie The Hustle got on Rotten Tomatoes. So.
That's
Damn,
tough.
bringing it back around. Nice. Anybody listening, go and watch this movie right now. If you don't love it,
Aquamarine.
at us at cinemabumspod@gmail.com.
You can say if you want to personally talk about the querying of JoJo, you can email me at cdt.armadillo@gmail.com.
And this concludes our weekly segment, Aquamarine Hour. Should we play Blum's the Word?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, this is our weekly quiz game, Bum's the Word, where we examine the 6 movies that IMDb thinks is like The Hustle. The 6 movies that popular website IMDb thinks are most similar to the one we watched. I'm going to give you guys clues, and you can see how many of the 6 you can get. I got to be honest, it's a tough week.
Okay.
It's a tough week. I'm just going to say that up front. But I believe in you. The first movie is another summer 2019 comedy. It stars one of the lead actresses from this film as its lead.
2019 summer comedy starring one of these actresses. Is it a Pitch Perfect film?
It is not. But it is also a musical, I'm being told.
Is it The Spy That Dumped Me?
No. That's a good guess, though. Here's the description. A young woman disenchanted with love mysteriously finds herself trapped inside a romantic comedy.
It is Rebel Wilson.
It is Rebel Wilson, but
it is
what
Rebel Wilson.
What was the name of that? I saw that where like everything was great and everybody was like in love with her.
I think so. I
And
have
like
not
everything
seen
goes
this
like
movie.
super well for her, and she's like, "Well, what the hell is this? Like I've been living in real life." And all of a sudden,
Yeah, it sounds like you know.
I know. Yeah, I know the premise. I just don't know what the name. I cannot, for the life of me, remember what the name of that was. Do you have any idea?
Happily Ever After.
Not that far. It's Isn't It Romantic?
Again, a name with no subtlety.
I feel like there is some craft in that. Isn't that romantic?
All right, the second movie on the list. This is a 2018 action film. It is the 5th entry in a long running series.
It's Ocean's 8, isn't it?
It is Ocean's 8. Okay, movie number 3. This is a 2016 film. It is also a comedy, but it's R-rated. I think it's a little more of a serious adult, like examining themes comedy than The Hustle or Isn't It Romantic. The description says, a group of young adults navigate love and relationships in New York City.
What year was
Surely there are no other movies you can think of that have that premise.
it? Right. What year was it?
This is 2016.
Oh,
It's an ensemble film.
This Is Us. Does it have Adam?
Is it a film we've already?
What's the name of
Adam
Kylo
Driver?
Ren? Adam Driver.
Oh, I don't think so. No, does not. It does have, I'm looking here, Colin Jost.
Oh, unfortunate.
Whoa. What? Talk to me after about Colin Jost.
It's about 4 female friends. Actually, it looks a little bit Sex and the City-esque.
Is it related to any other movies that we would know, or is it just like...
It is a standalone film.
Okay.
The title is like a piece of advice, or maybe the title would also be the title of like a self-help book.
Wait,
perhaps.
is it He's Just Not That Into You?
No, it's not.
That's
That's
so
a good
old.
guess, though.
How old is that?
Like 2004 or something, isn't it?
I
You're
don't know.
probably right. Slip out the back, Jack.
This movie is How to Be Single.
Oh. It was in that classic phase of how to get away with murder, how to be single, how to write a better movie title.
You've got Dakota Johnson, Rebel Wilson, Allison Brie, and Leslie Mann.
Damn.
That's a cat.
That does sound like a cast.
Movie number 4. This is a 2010 film. Listed here as comedy, drama, romance. It's, I would say, a high concept comedy. It has sort of a sci-fi premise and is using that as a springboard for a comedy. It does not star any of the actors in this movie.
Land of the Lost?
No.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
It's set on Earth. It's set in present-day Earth, but with a sort of what-if premise.
And it was 2010?
Yes.
Is that Idiocracy?
It is related to this movie through creative vision. Or one of its... that's a bad way to put it.
That's
one of
tough.
its... the creators of this movie also directed and wrote this movie.
Oh, is it... You said it earlier, didn't you? Timer.
Yes, it's Timer.
Damn.
But it's a comedy?
Yeah, we didn't
I
think
guess
that. That
so.
sounded like super sad to us earlier,
So
so I
sad.
guess we just didn't even think of it.
Yeah, it's listed here as comedy. It says, if a clock could count down to the moment you meet your soulmate, would you want to know?
Would you want to know?
Probably not. Probably not at this point. If it had been there my whole life, maybe, earlier. The other thing is, like, if it says 0, then it could be anyone you have met at any point in your life. Like, if I just got it at this point, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that's part of it? Well,
No, I'm just imagining.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm just imagining if I today were to get it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Would you want to know, Caroline?
Well, I don't know. Like, I don't understand the premise of the movie. Like, what's the benefit of like, if you know, then I guess you have hope that you will. But if you don't know, then you can enjoy dating other people. But I don't really get why you would not want to know necessarily.
Yeah, and also if they're your soulmate, then like if you're predestined to be together, then what does it matter if you know
Yeah, it
about it
doesn't really
beforehand?
matter.
Because you can't really like do anything about it.
Well, I guess you can't do anything about meeting them, but maybe if you're already married to someone else, you know.
Oh, if you knew, you could avoid, like, divorce.
Yeah, I don't think it's a predestined thing. I think I'm imagining it's a sci-fi concept where, like, every person has one soulmate, but they might not always end up with them.
Right.
They just
right.
meet them
Oh.
at some point.
Oh, huh. Well, that's it.
You're imagining. You haven't even seen this?
No, I haven't seen this movie. Movie number 5 of 6. This is a sequel. It's the second movie. It's a sequel to a big original blockbuster.
Okay.
An original movie that made a lot of money.
Okay. And this is the sequel to that film.
Yes.
What year is it?
It's 2015.
Okay.
The first movie was a cultural phenomenon. This movie, I don't really know much about, but it's the sequel. It did well enough to get a third, which came out more recently and I think was the last one. This movie is a jukebox musical.
Hairspray.
Nope.
Wait, is it Pitch Perfect 2?
It is Pitch Perfect 2.
Okay. Wow. Pitch Perfect performance every time. Our girl Anna Kendrick coming in clutch. Also, Rebel Wilson, I'm sure, is in that movie.
And also Solo Cups.
Yeah, and also jokes about vomit. Great job, Pitch perfect, really appealing to the teen base out there.
Okay, the final one in this game. This is a 2011 short film directed by Jack Schaefer, who wrote this movie.
Okay.
A romantic comedy starring Amy Smart and Rich Sommer that proves it's what you are on the inside that matters most.
Oh, one of those.
I would be amazed if any of the three of us had heard of this movie before.
You never heard of it before, I assume.
No.
Okay, there's not a chance I've heard of it. Caroline, you have no idea, right?
No clue.
It's called Mr. Stash.
That's good. That's good. That makes me kind of want to watch it.
Well, it's a short film, too, so the poster is just a bunch of mustaches on top of each other.
Oh, I don't like.
Bunch of animated mustaches.
What year was it?
2011.
That was the height of like the mustache,
Oh yeah, as a culture.
mustache necklaces and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I must
Like the
have
funny
seen that.
mustaches you would buy.
Well, I feel like those are still a thing, Wade. I would still buy those. I just
Well,
wouldn't buy like a purse with a mustache
Wade
on
buys
it.
one every day, don't you see?
Caroline, do you have any final thoughts about this movie, about The Hustle? Any parting words?
Having thoughts about this movie at all was a challenge. But I would just like to say that my Rebel Wilson tattoo is healing fine. Thanks for asking.
I'm glad to hear it.
Poorly colored film.
Oh, I just thought the color of this movie was off. It was just like it would like look strange. The visual tone of it, especially in the first half, just felt like not to match the
Yeah.
content.
Oh,
in
okay,
a
yeah.
weird way.
The part when he was like, Janet. What an enchanting name.
That's just like a callback to the old movie where her name is Janet. Like it's just in case you missed, her name was Janet. We're gonna say it was Janet one more time.
Okay.
Emmett, any final thoughts?
I would just, I'm going to echo Mariah and Caroline and say, get in your pool and take a seat. This whole series is a floppity bop, floppity bop, bop, bop. Wait, what are your final thoughts on this film?
I wrote down every time the movie made me laugh.
Uh-huh. How many times?
It was 4 times.
Okay, what were they?
The first one is when in the opening they ask Anne Hathaway, "What brings you to France?" And she says, "An airplane." Then like an hour passes until the next laugh, which is when she tries to break the crutch with her knee.
That was good, yeah.
The metal crutch. Third laugh when she's reading the JavaScript tech issue she has off of her hand as an attempt to flirt with the tech guy. Fourth laugh, cop on the phone yelling in the background of the shot.
Oh, I did like that part. That
Yes.
was fun.
That was really good. I also watched this movie with a past and future guest, Laura Bennett, and I wrote down everything she said throughout the movie, similar to you with Mariah,
Uh-huh.
and the timestamps of when she said it. 2 minutes in, I'm offended by this movie. 8 minutes in, I feel nothing. This is actually sucking the life out of me. 15 minutes, I can't watch anymore. As the credits roll, I hope nobody ever watches this movie. People will think that women aren't funny.
Damn.
I will say this is the closest I've ever come to not watching one of the movies. I was truly tempted at points throughout it
Yeah.
to just pretend to have seen it.
This is the closest I've come to saying we should just not be doing this series. But I think
Thank
it's
you
good.
for having me on this one,
You learn
guys.
from your mistakes.
Thank you for coming on, Caroline. Sorry it was a bummer of a movie, but
Yeah, at
it
first I
was
thought
a
I
great
was
time.
gonna get Lady Bird, but I ended up with The Hustle, and that's a loss.
That's the true long con that was played on you. in this
Yeah,
movie.
for real.
And Caroline, is there anything you'd like to plug while you're here, or any place the beloved listeners can find you online?
I was funny on Twitter briefly in like fall 2017, but it's a lot about Calvin Coolidge, and I don't know how into that vibe like everyone else is. But at times, yeah, well, some of us reached our peak early. Well, definitely when Hanks for Watching gets off the ground, I'd like to.
We'll be back on Friday to rank these movies and reveal our next series.
Hot dog. I'm very
Please
excited.
keep watching.
We're gonna keep watching.
Okay, love you guys. Bye.
Stay frosty.
Was I supposed to plug a charity or something? I look like a bad person.
Yeah,
Like,
what's your
donate to
charity?
feminists. After watching this movie, you owe it to feminists to donate. Or just personally Venmo a feminist in your life.
Do you know any of those personally who you'd like to plug for people to Venmo?
My Venmo is at Caroline-Temple-2.
Cinema Bums is a production of DKG Podcasts. It is created and produced by Emma Temple and me, Wade Lawrence Holloman. I also edit and mix the podcast. Our theme music is by Zane Holloman, who you can find on Bandcamp, and our show art is by Autumn Beckner. Our social media is managed by Laura Bennett. If you like what you hear, please tell all your friends, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, the 2 best ways to spread the word about our work. You can also follow us on Instagram at CinemaBums or email us at cinemabumspod@gmail.com. Don't flake on us. We'll be back next week.